Maxim, come in. Oh, good evening, Mrs. Danvers.
Good evening, madam. I hope Alice was satisfactory, madam.
Oh, yes, thank you. Perfectly.
She's the parlor maid. She'll have to look after you until your own maid arrives.
Oh, but I haven't a maid. I'm sure Alice will do very nicely.
I'm afraid that would not do for very long, madam. It's usual for ladies in your position to have a personal maid. I hope you approve the new decoration of these rooms, madam.
Oh, I didn't know it'd been changed. I hope you haven't been to too much trouble.
I only followed out Mr. De Winter's instructions.
Oh, well, what did it look like before?
It had an old paper and different hangings. It was never used much, except for occasional visitors.
Oh, then it wasn't Mr. De Winter's room originally?
No, madam. He's never used the east wing before. Of course, there's no view of the sea from here. The only good view of the sea is from the west wing.
The room's very charming, and I'm sure I'll be comfortable.
If there's anything you want done, madam, you have only to tell me.
I suppose you've been at Manderley for many years, longer than anyone else.
Not so long as Frith. He was here when the old gentleman was living, when Mr. De Winter was a boy.
Oh, I see. And you didn't come till after that?
I came here when the first Mrs. De Winter was a bride.
Mrs. Danvers, I do hope we'll be friends. You must be patient with me. This sort of life is new to me, and I do want to make a success of it and make Mr. De Winter happy, so I know I can leave all the household arrangements to you.
Very well. I hope I shall do everything to your satisfaction, madam. I've managed the house since Mrs. De Winter's death, and Mr. De Winter has never complained.
I think I'll go downstairs now.
That room in the west wing I was telling you about is there through that door. It's not used now. It's the most beautiful room in the house. The only one that looks down across the lawns to the sea. It was Mrs. De Winter's room.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're Mrs. De Winter, aren't you?
Yes.
My name's Crawley. I manage the estate for Maxim. Awfully glad to meet you. There's a fearful lot of stuff piled up while Maxim was away.
Yes, I'm sure there must have been. I do wish I could help with some of it.
Oh, no. Frank never allows anybody to help him. He's like an old mother hen with his bills and rents and taxes. Come on, Frank, we must go over these estimates.
I'll get my papers.
You'll find quantities of breakfast over there, but you must eat it all or cook will be mortally offended.
Well, I'll do my best, Maxim.
I have to go over the place with Frank just to make sure that he hasn't lost any of it. You'll be all right, won't you? Mm-hmm. Getting acquainted with your new home. Have a look at the Times. There's a thrilling article on what's the matter with English cricket. Oh, yes. Well, my sister Beatrice and her husband, Giles Lacey, have invited themselves over for lunch.
Today?
Yes. I suppose the old girl can't wait to look you over. You'll find her very direct. If she doesn't like you, she'll probably tell you so to your face. Don't worry, darling. I'll be back in time to protect you from her. Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, Maxim.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, Frith.
Isn't there anything I could get for you, madam?
Oh, no, thank you, Frith. I'm really not very hungry. Thank you.
The paper, madam.
Oh, yes, thank you, Frith.
Madam.
I slipped. Oh, thank you, Frith. It's big, isn't it?
Yes, madam. Mandalay is a big place. This was the banquet hall in the old days. It is still used on great occasions, such as a big dinner or a ball. And the public is admitted here, you know, once a week.
That's nice.
I beg pardon, madam. I'm afraid the fire is not usually lit in the library until the afternoon, but you'll find one in the morning room. Of course, if you wish this fire lit now, madam.
Oh, no, Frith, I wouldn't dream.
Mrs. De Winter, I mean the late Mrs. De Winter always did her correspondence and telephoning in the morning room, after breakfast.
Thank you, Frith.
Is anything wrong, madam?
Oh, no. Which way is the morning room?
Oh, it's that door there, on the left.
Oh, yes, thank you. Mrs. De Winter? Oh, I'm afraid you've made a mistake. Mrs. De Winter's been dead for over a year. Oh, I mean... Oh.
That was the house telephone, madam. Probably the head gardener wishing instructions.
Did you want to see me, Mrs. Danvers?
Mr. De Winter informed me that his sister, Mrs. Lacey, and Major Lacey are expected for luncheon. I'd like to know if you approve of the menu.
Oh, well, I'm sure it's very suitable, very nice indeed.
You'll notice, madam, that I've left a blank space for the sauce. Mrs. De Winter was most particular about sauces.
Let's have whatever you think that Mrs. De Winter would have ordered.
Thank you, madam. When you've finished your letters, Robert will take them to the post.
My letters? Oh, yes, of course. Thank you, Mrs. Danvers.